We are focusing on students self-identifying their strengths and interests, starting all the way in kindergarten, all the way up to 12th grade. All of those three things interconnecting, we're really building a tool chest for students to have the necessary knowledge, skills, and competencies to be successful citizens and people beyond the walls of Quakertown Community School District.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. I'm your host, Josh Oakes. This is our District Talk segment where we interview district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media so those students can someday shine online. Now, let's get back to the interview.
Hello, my name is Dr. Matthew Friedman. I am the Superintendent of Schools in the Quakertown Community School District. We are located just north of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We are a suburban district of 5,000 students and 8 buildings in our district.
Doctor, it's so great to have you on the podcast here today. We're so excited for you to inspire other district leaders and share with us some of your accomplishments in the district, and also talk about some of the most pressing issues and how we can tackle them together to keep students safe on these digital tools that we call social media so they can someday shine online and also thrive in the real world. So welcome to the show. Doctor,
Thanks,
my first question for you: what is your biggest accomplishment as a district over the past 1 to 4 years?
Being that this is my first year in the district, I'm really proud of all the work that we have done in year one. Some big things that we have tackled. Specifically, we have focused on building out a computational thinking / design thinking course at our elementary level, which will provide students the opportunity to really work collaboratively with each other, understanding STEM education and being hands-on with their learning. We have also spent the year focusing on building out a portrait of a graduate for Quakertown Community School District. Once again, interconnecting, focusing on the necessary skills, competencies, and knowledge that students need to have as they matriculate through our district, K through 12. So we provide them with the best opportunities, whatever pathway they choose when they leave our district. And the last thing that we have been focusing on as a district is looking at building an ecosystem across our district in career language acquisition, focusing on the RIASEC model by a American psychologist, John Holland, which has been around for about 80 years. And we are focusing on students self-identifying their strengths and interests, starting all the way in kindergarten, all the way up to 12th grade. All of those three things interconnecting, we're really building a tool chest for students to have the necessary knowledge, skills, and competencies to be successful citizens and people beyond the walls of Quakertown Community School District.
I love that. I love what you just said about students self-identify strengths, interests. I want to dive into that and a couple questions about how does that intersect with digital tools and how we can pave the way so they can shine online. So let's get to that in just a moment. The next question I have for you is really one that's on the minds of superintendents, principals, even parents all over the country. What advice would you give or have for other school districts to deal with social media issues that may originate on a social media app, perhaps over the weekend, but creates a very real problem on one of your campuses?
Well, Josh, unfortunately, because I like to see the good in tools like social media, but we also know there's another side to the coin. Some ways that we've been focusing on addressing social media issues. And keep in mind, not only has this been at Quakertown, in the experiences that I've had in 20 plus years working in public education, I feel very blessed in all the stops I've made along the way. Some of the ways that we have tackled social media issues, and we're doing it right here in Quakertown, is that we're focusing on education and awareness. We're implementing things that educate students how to be responsible on social media, talking about their digital footprint, talking about digital citizenship, what it means to put things out into the web, and talking about the importance of them knowing that things will be out there for a very long time, if not forever. We are creating clear policies to make sure that there are guidelines from the board level on down where we have clear frameworks and guardrails in terms of using social media for staff and students. We're working on collaboration. Collaboration is so important with both internal and external stakeholders. How are we reaching out to the parents, to the teachers, to the students, to the community? How am I, as a superintendent, interconnecting all of them and making sure that we're all on the same page with social media usage? Monitoring and intervention, I think that goes without saying. You need to constantly monitor our technology department. We truly feel as a district, we're at the forefront of monitoring by making sure students and staff and parents feel safe when our children in the district, whether it be in school or at home, are navigating safely using things like social media. And something that goes back to, I said a little bit earlier about community engagement. How are we engaging the community to foster a culture of respect, of empathy, of focusing on things like digital citizenship, making sure people outside the district are being good examples for our students inside the district, and working collaboratively as a district and community to really build that positive ecosystem and partnership between the two.
I like what you're saying. Basically, instead of saying, here's how we tell them not to have the problems, we go back a few layers to talk about how do we use the tools in a positive way? How do we build a portfolio? Some of the other things you alluded to, which I love. Let's dive into the positive side of things. I want to ask this question, and I want to put it through the lens of what you said earlier, strengths and interests. The strengths and interests that you're having kids self-identify as, or just what are those passions and projects and careers. And we 100% believe in that here at Smart Social. What do you want to do when you grow up? Which I just love. That it makes school so interesting. But I want to ask you this follow-up question with that in mind. Can you provide some examples of how your students may have used their social media in a positive or productive way that may have benefited themselves or their community?
Sure. And before I completely dive into that question, one of the big takeaways that I think can be interwoven into anything that we talk about is really amplifying student voice in school. I think it's so important that you amplify student voice. When you talk about students self-identifying and understanding strengths and interests, you have to realize that we can show mastery in a lot of different ways. It's not one size fits all. And so I think that interconnects with what you just asked me. Some positive things that I've seen through social media and student use of social media, I think we do an excellent job in our district in Quakertown promoting events. I think students have done a great job leveraging social media to promote school events, whether it's athletics or the arts or some school-based event that is going on. We have promoted hundreds and hundreds of events throughout the year. And I think it really makes it for a nice connection between everyone in school and the parents in the community. We, as a district, myself as a superintendent, my district cabinet, are building leadership. I think we do an amazing job of sharing academic achievements over social media, promoting the good in the district and all the amazing things that our students are doing day to day. We use social media and we leverage social media to help support causes that we believe in, that we're promoting, that we are partnering with different agencies, different organizations. So we use social media in that sense. We can use social media to build support networks for students, making connections with outside experts from around the globe to provide some sort of support for students. And I know from a staff perspective and from an administrative perspective, we really try to engage in positive discussions. So when we post things and when students post things, we engage with them in a very positive way. We're very supportive. We celebrate their successes. We celebrate the things that we put out there on social media, whether it's by individual building or by the district as a whole, or myself as a superintendent. But we really try to use it for good. And I love that question that you asked me, because people are so quick to look at the negative of social media, and it's out there and we don't turn our head to it, but there is so much positive that it's used for as well. And I hope I touched on that with some of the examples that I gave.
Yeah, thanks so much. So, the next follow up question that I'd love for you to speak to is, what suggestions do you have for parents to encourage their kids to use technology in a positive way, both in the classroom and at home?
I think you need to have some clear expectations and guardrails, and you need to build out that framework. Setting clear expectations for children. I have 3 children myself. We're most successful at home, my wife and I, when we set clear expectations for our children. Establishing guidelines for technology use that we establish in the district and working in partnership with parents and guardians to keep those guidelines consistent between home use and school use as well. I think as adults, we need to be role models on how we use social media. We need to lead by example. I'm mindful of that every day in my leadership role as a superintendent, that you truly need to be a role model. And I realize, and I love the aspect of my job that there's one of me. So I'm constantly under the microscope in the sense that people watch and they analyze everything I say and do. Being a role model in all aspects of everything you do, including what you put out on social media, I think is important. And I'm confident that building and district leadership, classroom teachers, every employee in our district really tries to set a good example of being a role model for the students that we serve. I would also suggest to parents something that I do as a parent as well is emphasizing balance in using technology versus going outside and playing, being creative, doing something with your hands, playing with your brothers and sisters, playing in the neighborhood, just being outside. So I think there really truly needs to be a balance. And something else as a parent that we encourage open communication, and that is paramount. Find out what your kids are doing, ask them what they're doing in school, but also talk to them what they're doing on social media. There shouldn't be any private accounts that children have. Parents should have access to all social media accounts. They should be monitoring and looking at what their children are posting or receiving on social media. And it's paramount to be an engaged parent or guardian. Something that really is at the foundational piece of everything that we do. We need to continue to educate parents about digital literacy and the digital footprint that you can have on social media, and the importance of being mindful of what you post, not only as a child, as a student, but as an adult as well. So digital citizenship and your digital footprint and digital literacy, it's so important to understand. You really need to be mindful about what you're posting. It's one thing to have an opinion, but it's also important to realize that your opinion is going out to a lot of people, and you need to think about the unintended consequences sometimes of what you're posting, whether you intentionally mean to do something or not. You just need to be mindful and understand the power of what social media can bring to the table.
Now, another topic that a lot of district leaders and PTA and PTO groups are looking to tackle that I'd love to get your insight in is a two-pronged question. What are your suggestions for other districts to increase parent engagement? And are there any specific channels that you found or events that get the biggest turnout?
I don't think you can ever stop communicating. I don't think you can ever stop building effective communication channels. You need to really think about how can you continue to make that connection between the school district and the community and parents at large, K through 12. People like to communicate in a lot of different ways. And so we try to diversify our communication. But I can tell you, social media is one avenue that has consistently continued to grow over the years. Some sites are more popular than others, and we put out surveys to the community to find out whether they're using X or Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or different things. Right now in the district, we utilize things like X, we utilize Facebook, we utilize LinkedIn for certain things, we utilize Instagram, and they're all equally important. People look at different things. We utilize our website for a lot of communication. We link our social media back into our website so people are aware and abreast of everything that we're posting. And we're looking to gain more and more traction in terms of communication channels. Another thing that I would strongly suggest to other superintendents and other districts as a whole is that starting in the fall, we're going to have monthly parent workshops and seminars about different topics, from social media to talking about our curriculum. Having those face-to-face meetings or even virtual meetings is important, to have those avenues and to have those forums and spaces so parents can voice their opinion and they can come and just learn. So you can be on the same page and they're not hearing second and third hand information. They really need to focus on coming and being engaged. And we want to open our doors and welcome them in. So having Parent Academy, having a parent workshop or seminar is extremely important. Another thing that I've focused on in previous districts that we will really be getting up and running starting in the fall in Quakertown is focusing on having family engagement events. One example that I can give that was extremely popular in a former district of mine is that we would have what we called maker nights. And we would invite families, and it was based around STEM education, but it was families working together collaboratively with their hands on some sort of design challenge. And they would work together to build certain things, and we would have competitions with the other families there. And it was a fun activity to have parents and children working hand in hand, and the community as a whole collectively working together on different things. So engaging families, bringing them to the table, bringing them out for district events, so important. Another thing that I love that has been very successful for me over the years is having a superintendent parent advisory committee, representation from each of the buildings, and getting that representation together on a monthly basis to talk about things and events happening in the district, to hear feedback from that parent advisory committee, and in return, asking them to be the voice and the go-between sometimes with the buildings, the district office, and even the community at large. So leveraging the information that they have on that committee, helping to put it out on social media, spread the word of mouth, has been extremely helpful. Probably the last thing I would say, which might sound pretty commonplace, but I can tell you it's been effective over the years for me, is that we oftentimes like to have volunteer events for families where parents and or students and or families as a whole will volunteer in various capacities, both during the school day and after school, or even on the weekends. Having parents as classroom helpers, event organizers, library assistants, guest speakers, where we have things like career day. Having that face-to-face interaction makes the other types of interactions that we have in terms of social media and email and different digital communication that much better, because you're getting context and understanding who the people are that are communicating just beyond being online.
Doctor, that was a masterclass in parent engagement. A lot of different really great things. I love it. I thought all of those were really valid. I wrote down monthly parent workshops. And what I also liked hearing from you is we want parents to come to us not to get secondhand info, but come straight to the source, which is super great. I also heard the advisory committee sounds great. And what I like that you're saying is you're listening directly to the community, which is on multiple different levels. Of course, you're listening to your staff and the principals, but you're also listening directly to the parents. I absolutely love that. Doctor, we're going to dive into the very last question that is the hottest question on everyone's mind. It has to do with AI. Before we do that, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to the dozens and dozens of school districts all over the country who are supporting and using Smart Social's programs, their parent engagement programs in their community. Our 54 plus virtual parent nights are a huge hit on campuses all over the country. Thank you to all the schools in 29 states that are using our program, using our modules and combined parent night events, all these different things to bring parents up to speed on how TikTok works, how to talk to your kids about it, all the dialogue starters, to open up your kids around the dinner table to say, maybe I am on my screen too much. Thank you to all the school districts that not only are using the programs, teaching us, and we're developing the world's best parent engagement platform. A shout out to everybody. Now, Doctor, we're back to you. The next question I have is about the hottest tool that everybody's talking about. We've been talking about it now for about a year on this podcast, and so excited to see how communities are using it. I want to ask you, how is your school district approaching AI tools like ChatGPT?
Josh, we could talk all day about this. This is a topic that I think changes day to day and almost hour to hour. I Let me start with my 30,000-foot perspective. I think what I've seen with a lot of my colleagues, not only in Pennsylvania, but across the country, is that we're very quick to ban and block things like generative AI, ChatGPT specifically, because it's new and people always oftentimes default to the negative side of something like that. It makes me think back many years when the evolution of computer labs, and then we broke up computer labs and we got computers in our classrooms. We had 4 or 5, and then we went to carts of computers, and then we went to one, and then we allowed students to actually take technology home and use technology both in school and out of school. Then cell phones came along, and cell phones have continued to be a hot topic. Should we use cell phones in school? Should we not use cell phones in school? And I think things like generative AI, ChatGPT, Gemini, Bard, the list goes on and on. Should we or should we not use those? So in Quakertown right now, for full transparency, it's really been a exploratory growth process in working with our staff, administration, parents, community, and understanding how to leverage the power of generative AI. Oftentimes, I've heard a lot, not only in the district, but outside the district in the work that I do statewide and nationally, that using things like ChatGPT, people equate it to cheating. And I think it all depends on the learning environment that you're walking into in each individual classroom. How are you leveraging technology as a teaching and learning tool? One great example that I saw recently at another district at a conference that I attended and spoke at around generative AI, they were giving the example that the classroom teachers were actually, when the students were writing an essay, they ran it through ChatGPT and put on their learning management system several examples of what ChatGPT kind of framed out for them. And they used that for initial talking points and then challenged the students to, based off of what ChatGPT put out there and using it as a prompt and using it as a guide, challenge the students to then write opinion papers off of what ChatGPT was framing out based off of the initial question. Flipping the script, which I loved that example, really making it from a teacher-centered to a student-centered classroom setting, having students work collaboratively, focusing on their critical thinking skills, leveraging an innovative technology like generative AI, and implementing it in a meaningful way inside the classroom. People in district office that oversee professional development have done tons of professional development around generative AI tools, specifically ChatGPT. We're a Google district, so we're looking heavily at Gemini as well. And we have really helped provide our staff with a lot of tools, resources, ideas on how to effectively use Gen AI as a teaching and learning tool right inside the classroom, and not think that students, when they get an essay prompt or a math problem or a science question, that they're going to put it in ChatGPT and it's just going to generate an answer and they're not going to do any of the work. So we're really trying to close the gap on that. We're trying to educate our staff. We need to educate and continue to educate our parents and our community on how we're embracing this inside the walls of our schools each and every day. It's an evolution of technology that has been around for many years, but the term is really coming to the forefront. I think almost every ed tech tool that I see out there now is promoting that they use AI in some way, shape, or form. One other example I heard, and I just want to share it with you, and I think it's a good one. I heard a gentleman speak at a conference recently, and he said, look, I've been a Boy Scout leader for many years for all 4 of my boys. And I also am a technology director in a school district. And when I hear ChatGPT connected to cheating, I always give them this example that one of the things that I always teach all the kids that I have as a troop leader is that when we go camping, I teach them how to use a compass and I teach them mapping skills. And when we're deep in the woods or we're hiking someplace or we're camping someplace, you need to know how to use a compass and need to know how to read a map. However, there are places that we are hiking and we have our phones and we have cellular service and we use GPS. So is that cheating? You still have the skills to read a map or to use a compass, but GPS can clearly and quickly tell you multiple ways how to get someplace. So in his opinion, that's leveraging technology in a positive way. That's not cheating. It's just knowing how to have other skills in your back pocket in case you can't use technology, but it's being able to diversify how you do something in many different ways. And I think in a microcosm, that's life in general. I think we'll continue to evolve with the use of AI, generative AI in our schools and our classrooms. I don't think teachers will ever in my lifetime be replaced by AI tools. I think there is a very defined art to teaching. I think teachers are critical to the learning process. And I don't think any type of technology, at least in my opinion, would be better than the human voice and the human experience on a daily basis.
Doctor, I want to thank you for your time here today. You've given us a lot to think about, whether it's AI, parent engagement strategies, how to help a kid just develop their strengths and interests at a young age so they have a North Star, if you will, to go towards. Thank you so much for your time here today.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it.
We appreciate it. For the rest of you watching or listening anywhere in the world, you're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast, where we help students to be safe on social media so they can someday shine online. As the title of my book says, remember to keep it light, bright, and polite online and in person because your kids are watching. We'll see all of you on the next episode. Have a great rest of the day. Take care. Thanks for listening to our smartsocial.com podcast. I'm your host, Josh Oakes. This was our District Talk segment where we interview school district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media so those students can someday launch into their future by shining online. This episode was brought to you by our smartsocial.com VIP program. It's called the Very Informed Parent Program, which helps you engage your students with teen-led video lessons. Stay one step ahead with our premium parent newsletter and discover hidden features on trending apps on teens' phones and our 54 plus live parent and student-friendly events every single year. You can click on the link below to chat with one of our team members if you want a free pass to our VIP program to support your community with our smartsocial.com resources. And if you're a district leader who has a success story, we would love to feature you on a future episode. You can click the link below to reach out. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Have a great day.